This episode is brought to you by Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, you should definitely check them out. It's a super easy tool that anyone can use to create and distribute their podcast. It has everything you need, and you can do it all from your computer or even your phone. Need your podcast cover art? There's a tool. Music and sound effects? They have you covered. Want to record on the fly? It's easy with the app. Now you may be saying to yourself, I already have a podcast. No worries, just create your account, upload, and publish to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Looking for some walking around money? Anchor connects you with advertisers who match your brand. It's a one-stop shop for all of your podcasting needs. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And today we have Talkin' Tacos Part 2. So y'all know what that means. We're talking about Corey's restaurant adventure, Cabo Fish Taco, and digging in a little bit deeper about what it's like to open a restaurant. We'll have on joining us in a little bit, Matt Karfakis, who is helping Corey. He's consulting with him because he's got a deep background in restaurants, as we learned in Part 1. If you haven't listened to Part 1 yet, we highly encourage you to go listen to it. But today we're digging into hiring because it is such an interesting topic right now for so many small business owners and especially people in the service industry. So, Corey, thanks for letting us dig into this topic again today.
I thought you were going to say thanks for joining. You're welcome.
You always join,
Yes.
So no. But I think this will be a really good discussion because you and Matt are doing some very interesting things that are pretty non-traditional and are kind of exciting in terms of how you're going to be recruiting talent for the restaurant.
Sure. And, well, I don't know.
The way you said sure tells me that I got that wrong.
Well, I think we're more aimed at retaining talent right now than we are recruiting talent, which in turn will help recruit talent. It's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. Mm-hmm. So, for us, and, we can save a lot of this for when Matt gets on, but I'll just drop this in there. Like when you're opening up a restaurant, when you're the new kid in town, the new restaurant, the new space, whatever, you're always going to have a bunch of people who are interested in coming over to the new restaurant because there's for every reason. It could be they are, they believe there's an opportunity there and they're stuck. They're just bored with their current job. They can't find a job elsewhere, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of reasons why new restaurants get an influx, get a pretty decent amount of interest for employment. The trick for us is going to be weeding out or selecting the best employees out of the group and selecting the best employees out of the group and then retaining them. And that's what we've been kind of working on the past couple of weeks is, as everybody knows, that SB Pace is consulting Cabo Fish Taco in terms of like doing everything that we say that we advise clients to do so that I can't cut quarters and slack off and do this the way that the way that a lot of small business owners would open up their business is figured out on the fly. Yes.
It's been an interesting experience because we're both sort of trying to figure out where the line is for either one of us to cross in terms of giving guidance or pushing. And with respect to, this is how you should do things or we recommend. And it's interesting because, you've got that deep background in restaurants. I don't, but I have a pretty successful track record in building high performing teams. And so a comment that we hear frequently when we're having conversations about hiring is that's not how it works in the restaurant industry, which I have no rebuttal for, right? So trying to figure out how do I give you the best guidance possible without, trying to just bulldoze over the fact that maybe it's not even realistic for your industry? Because I really think that best practices for hiring are kind of industry agnostic. You do not.
Well, and I think that, I mean, and with a lot of what we need to do and when we're talking with customers, and one of the things that we always talk with customers, clients, when we talk with clients or just anybody in any industry, is that the skills that we have, it's almost better to not bring in that industry expert, because you want that outside opinion. You want a fresh set of eyes on what you're doing, and building a highly effective team should be and can be independent, like completely agnostic of the industry.
Yeah.
It's just that the approach that that you have in your head doesn't fit with what, and I don't believe it fits with what would work in the restaurant industry. Not that once we get there, it's like we've had, because you and I have debated often about like recruiting for other industries and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, well, and I'm like, well, there's just, it's different because you're dealing with a different pool of people. The people who are interested in working in construction or restaurants or an office job, they're all very different. So you have to approach it a little bit differently. And I think, and we're going to have when we bring Matt on, we could talk about this, but I think especially in cities and in places like Richmond, where your name, your reputation is a big part of who you are as an employer, like that is the best recruitment tool.
Agreed. I agree with that.
So so from that perspective, it's doing everything right to retain the highest, talent that we can get. And then in theory, that's going to attract more.
Yes.
We'll find out.
Yeah. And I will say, we tried different approaches, well, at least I have, in terms of like how we kind of move through some of these conversations, and we can get more in depth with this when Matt gets on. But one of the last conversation we had was really when we talked about onboarding, right? And so I, rather than telling you, this is how I think you should do it, I had you and Matt walk me through everything that you think should be included. And then when we were done, I started, asking questions about, well, what would it look like if you included this, or could you include that? And could literally like hear in Matt's voice where he was like, yes, okay, yes, right? And because we couldn't see Matt's face, his camera was off on his Zoom, but I could see your face, and you were just like, huh, okay. So kind of piecing it in, like, this is the baseline. Now what can we do to amp it up and make it better? Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying, like, to that different approach is like, because it's like you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and that's what it feels like, when you're talking about this. But when you're like, okay, we just need to fit a peg in there, I'm like, oh, okay, you got to just change it a bit. So I'm like, okay, now I just need to think about it. Like all you're trying to say is this thing is something you need to consider. Now take your,
how can we make it work, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, when you guys described for me what you thought that onboarding should be, well, in my head, what I was saying to myself was, okay, that's the minimum that a company should be doing. So now how can we take that and then take it to the very next level, take it to the next level? So it's been an interesting experience, and I can't wait to bring Matt on and talk to him more about the hiring as well and dig in deeper. I don't know how many secrets we're going to give away though, because you want to maybe keep some of this stuff for yourself so you get all the best talent, but we'll figure that out along the way.
There's no such thing as secrets in the restaurant industry.
All right, well, let's take a quick break and we'll bring Matt on.
Hey everyone, if you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life.
All right, welcome back to the show. We have Matt with us. Restaurant consultant is his official title today. Hey, Matt, welcome back.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We are so good. We were just talking about hiring before you joined us, and I thought that we would go ahead and continue that conversation because it is one that is of pretty consistent debate between me and Corey, and I think you will have an interesting perspective and most likely align with Corey. So every time you do, we're just going to shut you down.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm not going to shut you down, obviously.
Yeah. So over the past couple of weeks, Matt, we've been working through some of the details around hiring, including, things that you can do for team building and building high performing teams and really helping to employees with their career path inside of Cabo, as well as employee onboarding. And I just want to, traditionally, what do restaurants usually, when they're hiring, what do restaurants usually get wrong in the hiring process when they're looking at, building a team and getting really good talent in the door?
I think it's about the follow-up. You hire people pretty quickly in the restaurant business, and I don't think Cabo this time around is going to be doing that, but at the same time, there's going to be situations where that's called for, and then it's the follow-up. You hire somebody, you get their paperwork done, they start within probably 2 days, and then they just get trained, and you never follow up with them afterwards. And I think that's where a lot of restaurants get that wrong.
Yeah, they kind of get lost in the system, so to speak, where it's just, all of a sudden they're learning all of the bad habits from the people who are training them, if they're lucky enough to get people to train them. And that's that. I remember one of my first jobs I got in a restaurant. It was literally, I was shown where the walk-in was. I got hired as line cook. I had no line cook experience prior to this. I was shown where the walk-in was. I got shown where dry storage was. I was handed a copy of the menu, and the guy who hired me said, "All right, cool. I'll be at the bar drinking if you need me." That was my introduction to that restaurant.
Did you need him?
Yes.
Wow. That is, that's it. How long did you stay there?
4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it Cabo?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I did that to people. No. No, it was another restaurant in Blacksburg. But yeah, I think that the problem is, and again, like we're going to have that problem is you get in a pinch and you just need a warm body. And I know that makes you cringe because we've had this conversation before, Julie, but there's no putting work off until later. It has to happen now. And if that means hiring the first person who has a pulse, who walks in the door, sometimes that's just the world you live in.
So, I didn't visibly cringe. I'm getting better at hearing it. But I wonder, so this, Matt, you said hire quickly, and Corey, you backed it up with you need a pulse, you need a body. But, the traditional, non-restaurant, maybe non-service related hiring model is the exact opposite. Hire slow, fire quickly, right? And it appears as if maybe restaurants are the opposite. Hire quickly, fire slowly, right? You give chance after chance, because I know we've had some conversations around sort of the behavior or the things that people will get a pass on, where I'm like, oh, okay. But I get it. It's a totally different industry. But do you think, Corey, this is to you first, and then Matt, I would love your response as well. Do you think that there is ever an opportunity, aside from maybe being a white tablecloth restaurant, where you can flip that model, where you can hire more slowly and fire quickly because your restaurant is in such demand as a place that people want to work because of the culture that you've built and because of the environment and the rest of the team? Or do you just think that's just the way it's always going to be with non-white tablecloth type restaurants?
I think there's stuff that you can do to help mitigate that, and the fire slowly thing isn't really that true either. I mean, you give a lot of passes to things, but it's also because it's not really detrimental to work, so to speak. Where like, and it's kind of it's a part of the industry, so it's like, all right, I'm going to overlook the fact that you're hungover 70% of the shifts that you show up to, but that's because that's just a part of the industry. And if you ran a drug test on any restaurant in town here, they would be hurting for employees. So there's just that's just a part of the business. But no, so I think that you can there's ways around it where you can kind of through training and planning and all of that, you can have plans in effect. So if you need to get rid of somebody quickly, you can fill in the space, fill in that gap, whether it's moving somebody up from a lower position or shuffling the schedule or whatever, which would have to happen anyways, because you're not going to be able to just hire somebody immediately and put them in that spot, depending upon what it is. So there's ways around it, but you're still going to, there are going to be many instances where, again, you need to, because you need a body there. I need somebody at the front door to greet customers, just to slow them down enough so that I could get this table seated and come back. And if that's all they're doing is just entertaining the customers, they don't even know, the table numbers or the name of the restaurant. Sometimes you're like, okay, just stand here and just talk to people. That's all I need you to do.
Okay.
And then tomorrow we'll work on, training you on becoming a host.
So so you're saying it would be rare to be able to flip that model and have it be hire slowly, fire quickly.
I think the hiring slowly part is the hard part, because somebody has to do that work, and it's going to fall on, somebody like myself. It's going to fall on management, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm fed up with this. Whoever walks in here, I don't care. Hire the next customer that walks in here. I don't care, because that work falls on somebody. Okay. You can't. It's not like in corporate America, when we were corporate, I mean, jobs will be advertised for months and months and months, and that's fantastic, but would never fly in the restaurant industry.
Okay. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Corey to an extent. Hire fast and fire slowly. There's been a lot of examples or situations, especially when I worked at Cabo, where I gave pass after pass after pass, because you have to think about the schedule that week, the schedule the week after, and the schedule the week after. And you can't just fire someone so quickly, because you'll have a big hole in your kitchen. I'm just thinking of the back. Front's a little different, a little easier to fill some spots. But, in a perfect world, I would like to hire slowly and fire fast, to be honest. That model would work excellent in any restaurant if we were in a perfect world.
Well, we're never going to be in a perfect world, and we've got actually a even a little bit bigger of a situation. I'm just going to call it a situation. I think we've all seen over the past 15 months that I'll just call them government handouts and subsidies have done a lot to really hurt service-related industries from being able to find help. So let's talk a little bit about that. We don't really know when Cabo opens, when we're, targeting a November open. So let's just pretend that that's, best case scenario, and the business is opening in November. You're going to be hiring in the, August timeframe for your, managing your manager employees or those key employees. And then in September, you'll be hiring for September and October, you'll be hiring for, the staff type roles. What type of consideration are you giving to the climate of finding workers, and how are you going to be different and stand out so that you can bring people in the door to work for you?
I think that, like I said at the beginning, just by the nature of being the new restaurant in town, we're going to get a lot of interest, and we're going to bring with us a name that people recognize. So that's going to be helpful. And for Cabo, the big thing is just going to be retaining those employees. And so having that positive culture, making sure everybody's getting properly compensated, and there's all of that stuff that makes it an ideal place to work for. That is the best tool that you can use to recruit more people, because everybody's gonna want to work there. Now, whether or not the labor pool exists is going to be a whole other thing, and I would love to get Matt's opinion on this, since he's works with restaurants, as for the food distributor he works for. But everybody who I've talked to said that, even it's nothing to do with pay. It's the people just aren't there. Like, the people who would be your ideal candidate for any role, whatever role it is in a restaurant, they're just not interested in working in restaurants anymore. Like, after the whole pandemic and the uncertainty that came with income, et cetera, and then, not to mention every place that did open back up, not every place, but a lot of places, you hear about how poorly the staff's getting treated by customers because they're understaffed. And it's like, look, like, this person actually decided to come back to work, and now you're just shitting on them because the place is understaffed, and you fully know well it's understaffed. But why would anybody want to go to work to get yelled at? I mean,
I know it happens to me every day.
Exactly, but like from what I can tell, it's just the labor pool for restaurants is not there.
Okay, all right, Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the labor pool is going to come back, maybe not as strong as it was once all the benefits end at the beginning of September, I think it is for Virginia. But at the same time, Corey mentioned paying competitively. We are going to be looking at the market here, looking at what everybody else is paying, and seeing how we can either compete or offer something a little bit better. In terms of that, I mean, maybe better onboarding, better follow-up, and investing in the people who are investing their time working for us.
I love that. I think there's so frequently we tend to think or make the assumption that pay is the only thing that people care about, and in many instances it's not even in the top 2 or 3 things that they care about, right? Culture is really important, enjoying what you're doing, the opportunity for advancement and for learning things, knowing that you belong to something bigger, a community or a movement. Those things are really important for people as well. And I don't know, so I'm going to ask if that, I know in corporate America that translates. And I know when you're looking at, a lot of like small businesses, that translates for hiring. People want to learn, they want to be appreciated, they want to have the opportunity for advancement. Is that true for people that are looking for and taking jobs in the restaurant industry?
There are definitely some people who are interested in that, and that's one thing that I do want to offer when it comes to Cabo, because I don't want just one, I want a dozen. And so for people who want to stay in the industry, there's going to be room for growth. There's definitely going to be that culture aspect, just making sure that it's an environment that everybody wants to, like you're happy to go to work. It's something you kind of look forward to, or one of those things where people, like when they get their corporate America job or whatever, they're like, well, can I still work on weekends or stuff? Because they enjoy it, and it's like there's the camaraderie there and all that. So there's some of that, but you're also dealing with a lot of people who just, I mean, they're doing this because they just need they need the paycheck, and they've got other interests, and the flexibility of a restaurant schedule makes it easy to do a lot of other things in your life, because you're working. You like weekends are an opportunity to work, so you could have Mondays and Tuesdays off or whatever it is, and you can have multiple jobs, et cetera, et cetera. Like if you're trying to start your own side hustle, I say like you get to have more than one job, but like, but like if like for, let's say if you're an artist of some sort, where it's like not exactly something that's paying the bills, but this can allow you that time. So it depends, but yeah, and I think that just that personal development's a whole other thing that I want to be a part of, or like have the restaurant like offer some sort of personal development, so that people feel like they're not just stuck in some crappy dead end, kitchen job, waiting job.
Yeah, I know one of the things that we've talked about, the three of us, is that helping the people in the employees write better resumes, right? So knowing that they're probably not going to stay at Cabo for the rest of their lives, but that doesn't mean that you can't offer them value in terms of helping them have better resumes or up-leveling their skills, so that when they leave Cabo, they get a better job someplace else, regardless of the industry that it's in. And so you're looking at not just, what this employee can do for Cabo in the short or the long term, but what you can do for them in terms of helping their career. And then that really builds a sense of loyalty where, first off, they're probably going to be lifelong customers. Second off, if they ever know anybody who's looking for a job, they're going to be like, hey, you're going to want to go work at Cabo. And they may, if you are ever in that pinch where, you had to fire fast and you really needed somebody, maybe you could give that person a call and be like, look, I know you're not here anymore, but is there any chance you could come in and help us out for a couple of days or whatever, right? So it opens up a whole bunch of opportunities beyond just what's right in front of your face.
I agree.
Excellent. Matt, do you also agree with me?
I do.
So what are some of the things, Matt, that when it comes to either your hiring process, the hiring process for Cabo, or the onboarding process that we've sort of started to work through that you think is going to help Cabo to stand out?
Well, I think we talked about the idea that when we hire someone, if it doesn't have to be them starting within the next 48 hours, to have them come in and eat a meal. So then everybody knows in the restaurant that this person is going to be new and coming on, and they also get the added benefit of seeing how service works from the customer's perspective. I think that was one of the really good ideas that we had, along with I think an onboarding package.
Yeah, I love the onboarding package idea, and that meal one is really cool too. I think that's something that I don't know if it's fairly unique to the industry, but it feels like something that helps people really understand from the customer perspective, but also meeting the team that they're going to be working with.
Yeah, I like that idea when y'all were talking about that the other night, of having them come in and then let everybody know, hey, that person sitting at the end of the bar there is so and so, that they start in 2 days. Go say hello, etc. Because regardless, your first day at any job is kind of weird and lonely. So
it is.
It'd be nice to have some people who you can at least you at least know their name.
Yes, exactly. How about you, Corey? What are some other things that you like from the onboarding or hiring perspective that we've talked about?
I don't know if there's anything else that's really stood out that we haven't mentioned already. Like,
Okay.
I like the package. I like the, that having that kind of get to know you thing. I mean, I want to make sure that we have a good training program for our trainers, so that it's like when I was saying you get lost in the system. It does not. You walk in, you're like, hey, you need to look for Matt, and they go find Matt, and Matt's like, oh, okay, you need to go to this person, and then they're like, you need to go to this, and then next thing you know, they're just like sitting next to whoever it is in the dish pit, just watching somebody wash dishes because nobody wants to deal with them. You know? So just like having a good training program for the trainers, I think, is something that needs to be considered.
Very important. And we we walked through a lot of different ideas too for team building and for career development that I think are pretty unique and really fun, right? So you're going to have this environment that people are going to want to be a part of, this culture that's going to stand out. And I think that's exciting. And to make that as part of the, job descriptions and part of that interview process. And you're also going to be doing some unique things in terms of when you're interviewing candidates that maybe aren't quite ready to come and work for Cabo yet, or that aren't selected because they don't quite have those skills. That you're going to be doing some unique things from that perspective as well.
Yeah, and the follow up and all of that. I mean, anybody who's ever been on a job hunt knows how brutal it is when you think you might get a call back or you don't, whatever. Just being transparent, honest, and just saying that, because I've thought a lot about that since that last call that we had when we were talking about when do you tell somebody whether or not they got the job. And I mean, unless there's like, I have to debate between 2 or 3 people and I can't make a decision there. That's obviously, the exception to that rule. But if you know right away, you're like, this guy is not going to be a good fit, just to be like, hey, look, you're not a good fit, and I'm not going to waste your time or mine.
Right. And then also giving some tips.
Yeah. I mean, do it in a nice way to be like, in the future, here's some things that you could probably do better, or you're just not a good fit for us right now, but I can keep, hold on to your number and give you a call if we find a position that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that. And I think because so many, we have moved into a world that is so fast paced that, like, in many instances, courtesy has just gone out the window, right? So it's like, you not only do not get a call back to say like, no, we didn't select you. You don't even get an email, right? You just get nothing. You're like basically ghosted by employers now. And even for as many people, like there are so many companies looking for people, they still don't quite handle that correctly in terms of how they could really turn the tables in their favor for how they're treating candidates when they walk in the door.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I won't ever eat at Chipotle again.
Why? What did they do to you? Because they didn't hire you?
Yeah. No. Yeah. That was years ago when I left that cafe, and I was just trying to find something to do, anything to do. And yeah, I knew it during the interview that these guys were not going to give me the job, but they just like kept it going on and on and on, and then they never call back, and then eventually I got an email, and I'm like I should have just walked out because I knew this wasn't going to be a good fit.
Right.
But
imagine though, like when you were at Performance, and you sent me that email and offered to help, and I said, I don't need you.
Well, at least you responded.
That's true. That's true. But at least you didn't give up, because you still came in and, you didn't know I was the hiring manager for the next.
No, I did. And I was also told that my job was going to be eliminated, and it was like, you should probably go talk to Julie.
Yeah, good move on your part. All right. We should probably start wrapping up. Matt, do you have anything else that you would love to tell our listeners before we wrap? Oh, wait. I got 3 questions. We're going to go back to this again.
Yeah, we're going to make it quick. So.
We're going to make it quick. So succinct answers, guys. Matt, we'll go to you first. And again, for our listeners, we're going to ask these 3 questions with each of the podcasts in this series. Same questions, just to see how their answers change, or maybe they don't. Matt, what's one thing you'll do better than anyone else in the area?
Still source food for the restaurant.
Excellent. Corey, how about you? One thing that you'll do better than anyone else?
I think it's going to be building that culture.
All right. I think that's going to be a good one for you guys. All right, Corey, I'm going to you first this time. What makes you nervous about opening a restaurant?
I mean, right now, the thing that's making me nervous is whether or not we can actually start build out.
Fair enough. You're very close, though. Very close. I think next time we do the Cabo podcast, we should talk about all the bureaucracy that happens to get a restaurant open.
Yes.
Although we might need to block off 2 hours for that one.
I'm just going to call it complaining about the government.
Talking Tacos Part 3, complaining about the government. All right, Matt, what makes you nervous?
Rising prices of all the products currently.
Interesting. Okay. And then finally, Matt, why will Cabo be a success?
Along with the training and onboarding now, the culture, it's like we just keep adding every week.
Fantastic. Corey, what do you say?
Yeah, it's the people. And that's the primary reason why I believe most restaurants are successful. It's the people.
The people. I agree. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up. I want to thank both of you for coming on and chatting with us about Cabo. Talking Tacos Part 2, I feel like, has been a wild success. And I really hope that all of our listeners enjoy it as well. So thanks to both of you. And I don't know what we're going to put in the show notes, but it's going to be interesting. So your guess is going to be as good as mine. If you're interested in working with SB Pace, you know what? Just connect with us on our website. You can fill out the contact form, or you can send an email to info@sbpace.com. And if you are one of the many people who are going to be really clamoring to work at Cabo, just hold tight, because the hiring should start soon, and it's going to be an amazing experience.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we're going to put in the show notes, and that's going to be the Instagram account for Cabo Richmond. So if you're a listener and you haven't followed us on Instagram, we are at cabo.richmond. So we'll drop that in the show notes, and then you can connect with SP Pace and BizQuik Podcast. We have LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and everything that you need to know can be found on our website, sbpace.com.
Exactly. You can also subscribe to our podcast. We would love it if you did, and if you told 2 friends about it and asked them to tell 2 friends as well. And if you could like us and give us a review, we really appreciate that. That helps us to do better. We perform better. It's almost like dogs getting a treat. We perform better with reviews. Oh, and hey, you can reach out to us about any topic that you're interested in hearing about, and we will do our best to make that happen.
don't forget to buy our book. It's called Seriously Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. It's on Amazon. It's a bestseller. We've got a digital workbook download, and if you've already purchased it, make sure to like it and give us a review.
Exactly. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
This was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America.